Yo, when I spit bars in a raid, man, I go hard like Santan.
Hello and welcome to another TouchlineGunners podcast. It's your boy DanKoogs on hosting duty yet again, and we got a full cast here today, man. So without further ado, we got Shabs. How you doing? Hood solicitor. You're doing some crazy trolling on me in the group chat earlier, yeah. So
me,
yeah. So I'm going to be on your case on this episode.
I'm on you. So let's go, player. let's go, player. On God. I'm good. I've been peaceful Shabs for a long time. Like now, I'm smoky Shabs.
Okay, nice to hear it. Nice to hear it. And we got Khalil HT3. How you doing, my guy?
I'm good. Again, I think we're all just shocked that Manchester United let Tottenham Hotspurs do them in a European final. I cannot believe my eyes. So yeah, man. I mean, they're mudded. I'm happy, but I just cannot believe they have sunk this low. How the mighty have fallen. We was Kangs, man. It is real bad.
Yeah, real shambolic, man. Real shambolic. And we got Jay on Nigera Rasta. How you doing, my guy?
Yeah, I'm not too bad.
Not too bad. You say you're not sounding not too bad, though, man. Perk up, G.
Do you know what it is? Couple on my Monday commute to work, a couple of them were talking smoky on my name on the main pod. So I'm just like, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here fine loaded, and man aren't here today. So it's like, man had to put the mash away.
Yeah. This is the thing, though. So people, they talk tough when you're not about. Do you get what I'm saying? So yeah, German said I've been running from him. Yeah, he said I've been running from him. I said I'm going to be on this pod. I ain't seen him put his name forward. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
Lewis said to me on the main pod. So I came with the mash tucked, and then maybe he's with the horse. Or something.
Yo, this is a family podcast, please.
Sorry.
What did Lewis say in it? I'm asking for a friend, innit?
No, he basically directed something at me in it because obviously City lost on Saturday in it, so he mentioned my name and I was like, "Rah, okay." So
because you kettled him that a couple of weeks ago. That's why.
Well, I'm hearing I kettled him, but according to some, he might have slapped me up. So I don't know.
You kettled him, man. Lewis is a big baby. Kettled him.
Yeah. No, it was a good little tussle. Good basketballs. Yeah. So we'll get into it today. So first things first, yeah, it was the Europa League final today. I just want to gauge you man's thoughts because me personally, I was getting heat in one chat earlier when I was like, they're saying, who do I want to win? Usually United fans are asking me, who do I want to win? I was like, to tell the truth, I don't really care. If I have a preference, probably I think, obviously the Spurs rivalry aside, I think a Europa League win for them kind of means less in the grand scheme of like football for Arsenal Football Club as a whole, right? Like on a personal level, obviously I'm good friends with Tapping Tobes, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, the guy's best man at my wedding. I don't want to see him happy when it comes to football, but I confirm that, if it means I get to dunk on United. And if United win, I'm going to eat either way. Tobes is getting his head slapped. Do you get what I'm saying? So I looked at it that I didn't really give a shit about this. I don't really get the whole, they had a better season than you, this, that, and the other chat. I didn't get it when we were 8th and in the FA Cup final, because I always see these trophies as papering over the cracks. I think to say that, a team competing in a competition that you couldn't even enter because you were too good, right? And the team winning that means that they've had a better season than you. It doesn't quite calculate for me. To be honest, I've never really got that angle, and that's not just because Arsenal on the other side of it. I think that's something that I've maintained from years back. So that is what it is, and for me, I think United are mudded, and it brings me big joy. No matter what result happened today, I was going to eat. And I would say I'm probably about a 3 or 4 out of 10 annoyed that Spurs won a trophy. I think I might have been higher if United had won. I'm not going to lie. And that's where I am. So, Khalil, you're off mute. Tell me how you feel. Where your head's at.
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up perfectly at the end, where like obviously I know a few Spurs fans, and it's more just like a inconvenient annoyance that they won, but I'm not like fuming, if that makes sense. I think for United, if they had won it, it would have been another sort of get out of jail free card that they seem just to collect by the notion of being Man United. And I've said already, like typically big clubs get away with the nonsense that they pull, like they make terrible decisions and get away with them. They never feel like the consequences of them. So it really does feel as if at this point, between their league position and the shitness of their squad and their financial system, sacking the dinner ladies, sacking all the volunteer workers, rats running around the place. It really does feel like this was like a loss that is really going to impact them. So from that perspective, I can't sort of complain too tough. I think, again, as you mentioned, all the nonsensical chat about who's had a better season, you can see the reaction from these guys now. Like, no one with a straight face is going to turn around and say that finishing 16th and 17th in the league is better than being, top 2, top 3 and competing in the Champions League latter stages. It just doesn't compute, because at the end of the day, the season is from August to May. And I have a timeline, you have a timeline. Every Saturday, we see the same tweets from the same people talk about how much they hate watching their football club. And I used to be one of those people way back, back in the Emery days and the dark Arteta days. Like, I do not miss those days one bit, as much as I have issues with Arteta and frustrations as to how things have gone. Like, I do appreciate that we are not mudded, and these guys are utterly mudded. So, yeah, it was an easy hate watch for me. I was going to win either way. I'm slightly happy for tapping toes, but for everyone else is what it is, man. I'm enjoying like the pure despair and getting from our group chats, because they're trying to run banter, but even their level of shamelessness can't get them to run banter after losing a European final to Tottenham Hotspurs. It just cannot compute. It doesn't work. So me, I'm fine. And hopefully Sunday has another one for me. I already got my outfit laid out for that Super Sunday. Nottingham Forest, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Chris Wood. What's my man from Nottingham Forest called? Robin Hood. What have you got for me? I just need one more before we sink off into transfer season, then I'm good.
Yeah, I definitely am locked in now for that hate watch, man. Like, I'm super locked in. This probably might be the most locked in I've been this season, to be honest. Chris Wood owes me. Chris Wood owes me as well. Chris Wood owes me something, man.
I've got my fit laid out on my bed. I made my bedroom ready for Sunday. I got my fit laid out, waiting for the game. I'm gonna come fresh to death, waiting for that Hudson-Odoi dagger.
Yeah, Shabs and Jay, I don't want to dwell on this final too much, because it actually isn't about us, despite what rival fans will have you thinking. Every result turns around, what's us, like the top end guys at us straight away at full time. I'm thinking, guys, United not supposed to be your biggest rivals. They've lost the final. You're at in TG and not at in Mugger. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, guys, let's get your priorities in order. We are the main characters. I get that. But, today's final did not involve Arsenal. So, Shabs, Jay, I'll let you close up on that with any thoughts you want to have on the Europa League final. Then we get into why the listeners are locked in here to talk about Arsenal.
United, I just want to say United is shit, man. that's all I can say, man. That's all.
Congrats to them and there, innit? Like, yeah, you won, but you'll forever be shit. Like, before I was alive, while I'm alive, while I'm dead, like, you're gonna be meaty, innit? So enjoy a win, but you might finish 13th next season. But yeah, man, it don't really bother me, I'll be real.
Yeah, I hear it, man. I hear it. So let's get on to the Arsenal, man, because there's been just transfer links, but we actually did play a match of football on the weekend that we haven't spoken about. It probably is a match that I think is quite emblematic, endemic, I don't know what word you want to say, of our season. That it just stands out to me that I've watched that match so many times at home, right? We did manage to get the 3 points in the end, but I look at that and just wasn't infused with that performance, wasn't infused with a number of players on the day, right? So, let's get into it. Jay, I came to you last, so I'll come to you first, right? I think Rice passed a late fitness test. Timber was out injured. Turns out he's had to have ankle surgery. We'll speak about that a bit later in the pod as well. So I'm looking at that, man. Just talk to me about that Newcastle performance and how that game left you feeling.
I actually didn't get to watch the first half as I had a Shield final at that same around the time.
Bro,
the first
you're a lucky guy, man. You're a lucky guy.
I actually missed the first half, but I remember as I was literally setting up for the game was going on, I just remember seeing a tweet saying that in the first 20 minutes, Newcastle had 8 shots, 5 on target. And then I started tuning in around the second half, and then I saw the Rice goal, which was brilliant. But even second half, it just looked like we had a bit more control. It looked stale. There was a few transition opportunities towards the end, and I'm just looking at Havertz and Martinelli. I'm just like, bruv, what's going on here? The fact that there's a transition opportunity that people say we don't get enough of. Right there, and Martinelli's first touch was poor. Just kind of summed up the last couple of weeks of Arsenal for me. I just think these man's minds already in Cancun or wherever they're going to be going on holiday. I think a lot of them just look like they don't even want to be playing these games at the moment because there's nothing to play for. Season's done. But second half looked dross. It just looked like after we got that goal, Newcastle tried a few things, tried to get into the game. I think Raya had a stand-up performance from what I saw. But apart from that, it didn't look like a game of football anybody would want to be watching.
Yeah, it was pretty diabolical to me, right? And so, I think one of the points that was raised on the pod last week, this is why I was listening to that last week, and I was really desperate to come with some retorts. But I thought I'd save it for the pod rather than going at people in the chat. I think one of the points was, looking at the PSG game and saying oh, look how many chances we created. This is why it's a finishing problem, this, that, and the other, right? And I thought that was a bit disingenuous because I personally feel there's been so many more games like this Newcastle game than there have been like the PSG game in the past 18 months, right? So I know people point to 23-24 season, second half, we're slapping teams left, right, and centre. But after we played Porto in the Champions League, that kind of ended. Do you know what I mean? And it became a lot more methodical in how we were getting past teams. I think the Chelsea game aside is probably the exception to that because I think they really tried to come out and attack us. But you think back to the match at Old Trafford, you think back to the match at Spurs, you think back to the match against Man City, right, in that run-in, even the match against Aston Villa, where we lost 2-0, right? I look at those matches and I'm like, this is not fantastic football that we're playing. It's very predictable, as people have said. It's reliant on the set pieces. You look at the Spurs match, etc. And I felt coming into the season, number one, we needed to get, forwards, this, that, and the other. And when we didn't, we then needed to lean into taking a few more risks in our play. I personally feel that, the manager reacted to injuries in certain ways that displayed where his thinking was at for the season, right? So you think about when I think Odegaard got injured and then Rice got suspended, right? And we went to Tottenham and it was very much boom, boom, boom. Lock up shot. We're going to get a 1-0 win. Yeah.
Set piece.
Set piece delivery, and Spurs didn't look like they're scoring. I think in isolation, you can kind of defend that. You can kind of say, yeah, that's cool, whatever. Then I think in that same little period, you got the Bournemouth match where people are thinking, you know, we've won 2 on the bounce. Are we going to see Nwaneri come in? We don't see that. We see Marino prioritized in midfield instead. Obviously, the red card happens, but that first 30 minutes was pretty diabolical from an Arsenal perspective in the way that we played. And then we went to Newcastle. He played the same sort of flat midfield three with Rice Marino, didn't really bang. And I think that was a very, very similar Newcastle away performance to the one that we had the year before, also without Odegaard, right? So I just think the emphasis this season has always been clearly on defense and not attack. And I don't think, you know, on the pod, I think Dr. Mikey said we've not struck the right balance. I definitely agree with that, because I think the manager's emphasis has always been to defend first this season rather than going on the front foot. And I think the thing that annoys me is that when you look at the PSG match, in a game where now losing the tie, we're attacking, you see him try a few more things, right? Where Timber is not in the sort of the line of build at the back three. He's playing high up, very close to Saka, allowing him to, you know, dribble and get his game off in the final third. I'm seeing all these long throws, right? And my question is, if you see long throws as a high percentage chance of you scoring a goal, why have you not done that all season? You get what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So it's clear to me that, you know, the emphasis hasn't necessarily been in terms of how can we hurt this team, right? And the Newcastle game on the weekend was just Groundhog Day for me, right? So, Shabs, I'll bring you in to get your thoughts on that, right? Because, you know, you can talk about the Newcastle performance, but where do you sit on that spectrum as to, you know, I think we all agree we need new attackers, but where do you sit on that spectrum as to, you know, how we play? Are you happy with the game model, this, that, and the other?
I see. We're here again. It's tough. It's tough to say, because I don't know if added quality is going to. I don't know the extent to which added quality is going to make a difference. I don't know if it's genuinely about the players or the lack of players that we have versus a requirement which necessitates a change of system. And to be honest with you, I think what we need is a combination of both. So where I sit on the spectrum is quite high in the direction of change. You know, I'm more about let's change it. Now, people might argue with me and say, well, actually, we're doing what we need to do. We're creating chances. We're making things happen. What we're missing is that clinical finishing in the box. What we're missing is that ingenuity. What we're missing is those moments. And I could agree with that as well in certain games in the season. To be fair, I wouldn't chalk it down to. I think this Newcastle performance, ultimately, what I would chalk that down to and how it looked was, this is a typical game that you will see at the end of the season when there's very little to play for. Players are tired. We look tired. We look leggy. We look like we're just ready to end the season. There's nothing. I mean, there was something on the line on Sunday, but ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, it's not. You know, it's not. We didn't set out the start of this season to beat Newcastle to second place and secure Champions League space. We set out to win. So when that target moves off the board, it's kind of like, yeah, we just what's the bare minimum we can do to get the win, get the 3 points, and that's what I chalk that performance down to. What I would say is that there have been many times throughout the course of this season where this attack has failed to deliver. This attack in particular has underperformed, and I think this is where it becomes more relevant when we're talking about a change of style or adding quality. But I think right now I'm high on the line of change. Let's change it. Let's bring players in. And I always say the coach needs to have a plan B, and we need to have different ways of being able to skin cats, because there aren't many criticisms of Arteta. Let's be honest. You know, I know sometimes I run up agenda and whatnot, But in terms of him as an actual coach, there aren't very many valid criticisms of him, I don't think. There are some, but I don't think we're running up a long list. But I think one for me is a lack of variation, a lack of variability. Is kind of like there are games where we can blow teams out of the water. There are games where it just looks like we're not going to get a goal. We could play for another 90 minutes, we're still not going to score. We need like set piece or something to go in our favor in order to do so. So yeah, that is something that I think needs to change and needs to be developed a bit more from the coach.
Agreed, man. Agreed. And the thing is, I think number one, fundamentally, signing new players will be an absolute boost to anything that we do, right? Because case in point, Jay, second half you said you watched that break from Havertz and Martinelli at the end. I wanted to punch a hole in my TV screen. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, like there's just been so many counterattacks, transitions, this, that, and the other, that this team has fluffed on a mad thing, yeah, that drives me insane. Khalil, I think back to the PSG match in the Champions League, I think we won the ball literally on the edge of their box maybe 2 or 3 times in that second leg. Yeah. Partey, Trossard, these men, Martinelli, Havertz, I don't know who it is, but man don't want to let the thing go. Yeah. I'm looking here and saying, yes, 100% I agree, player quality. Maybe that is enough. Maybe that is enough. But my issue is that we've had this squad we've had for this whole season. Yeah. Would there not have been a couple more tweaks to maybe boost the number of shots that we're able to take? Do you get what I'm saying? But yeah, man. Let's talk about that Newcastle match, I think, because I do think there were a couple of issues I saw in how we pressed on the day. Do you think that's down to the players are signed out? Because I think there's a few times now where we've not really been able to get the best of an Eddie Howe team tactically, right? I think probably the game at the Emirates last season is the one time where I felt like we just dominated them. They couldn't live with us, but there's not really been too many of them since Eddie Howe has taken over at Newcastle, So yeah, what's your thoughts on that match, like performance-wise?
It's sort of the performance I was expecting, which kind of sums up the season in itself. First half, you mentioned that how we struggled to really have an effective press. It is a bit concerning that now 2 coaches, I mean, obviously, PSG first leg, you remember how they were able to bypass our press so easy. We seem to be really flummoxed by how Eddie Howe was using Livramento, because they were basically moving to like it was a 3 at the back system really when they were building up, and then Livramento was like the free guy, and yeah, the ball just kept coming back, and on top of that, player execution was really off. David Raya gave the ball away very nonsensically a few times, and yeah, just in general, that feeling of chasing shadows, we don't experience it a lot. At the Emirates or just generally in this coronation of Arteta's team. So seeing it live and direct again was not good. I think there are points to be made about the team mentally having signed out of the season, which you can say it's a natural reaction. You can say it's bad, but I think it's a reality of the situation. And yeah, I mean, it was just drab. Newcastle really should have scored from the turnovers that they managed to get high up the pitch. But good saves from Raya to redeem himself, and yeah, it was just sort of a procession in regards to how we attempted to attack and play. And we're going to talk about this numerous times, and we have spoken about this numerous times already. Like our lack of offensive cutting edge potency amongst our front line, because overall, yes, we will score 65 plus goals and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, in the most critical games, where we needed to either create or convert, do one or both, or do both at the same time. We haven't been able to do it. And we were just debating, or not debating, but, someone shared a screenshot in the group about the lack of investment. I think Arsenal's it's like 63rd in Europe, spent money. They're 63rd ranked since 2020 when it comes to forward spending. And to me, it just sort of speaks volumes as to where we're at, where there's such a huge discrepancy between our attacking strength and our defensive strength. You made reference to the fact that, I think it was you, made reference to how Arteta leans on his defense, but I think it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy here, where our defense is so strong that he's just willing to go to the extremes and be like, yeah, we can rely on these guys to get us a win. But in the Prem, there is too much talent from, outside of the top six, where maybe back in the day you can come and do like a Mourinho 04 or 05, lock up a clean sheet and get a 1-0 win. But between the variants, as we've witnessed this season, we've witnessed red cards, justifiably or not. We've witnessed, free goals being conceded. Like, the expectation that, as good as our defense are, that he's going to be able to get us out of jail all the time, I think is a full concept. I think the games we've done, there's more talent, more than ever spread. Guys can take advantage. Because the Palace, have an Eze, Bournemouth have Semenyo, Evan Nilsson, pick a bottom half of the table team. You can probably pick at least one attacker that you can respect. Ipswich have Delap, obviously Brentford have Mbeumo and Wissa. Like, there's the notion that these guys can be kept at bay all the time is a very, very risky strategy. And I think we lead into that, whether it's because of injuries, whether it's because of how we've recruited. This is how it's manifested. And as a fan, I can tell you now, like, what adds to the frustration of us not winning is feeling as if, there's aspects to our game that aren't enjoyable. And that Newcastle first half was not enjoyable at all. We got the win, and I, give credit to the team for digging it out. But yeah, going into next season, I think there definitely needs to be, outside of the recruitment talk, and there'll be plenty of it, I think there does need to be a little bit of a recalibration as to platforming or taking more of a risk when it comes to how we attack, because we need to go win games. And I think that's what it is. Like, we actually need to go and win sometimes. It can't just be enough to shut up shop. And PSG, second half, first leg, it felt as if we were satisfied with just going and saying we're going to take the 1-0 and go to PSG, which fine. It wasn't the end of the world, but at the end of the day, these are big games with the best players, with the most sort of pressurized environment. You're asking a lot of yourself if you're sort of giving up periods of the game just because you're worried about losing more than trying to figure out a way to win. So yeah, happy we got the win. Happy that we're not in any sort of jeopardy in the final week of the season. But yeah, that Newcastle game was not pretty. And to sort of just answer your question more properly in regards to Eddie Howe, there is an issue. There is an issue with certain teams in the league that, one, Newcastle's team has a very high physical potential profile. That midfield of Tonali, Gomares, and someone else who I'm forgetting. Who's the third midfielder that plays? Whoever it is, just completely escaped me. But yeah,
Tonali, Joe Linton.
Yes, Joe Linton, that's the one. Tonali, Joe Linton, and Bruno G. Just bare thug ball, but they've got enough technical ability to match. And generally, the defense is quite a strong unit. And as we all know, Gordon, Isak, Murphy, they're all, great athletic potential, can run all day, and they're very aggressive. And we have struggled against that. And it is something that needs to be rectified, because as good as our top six record has been, we're not losing the title because we didn't have a good record against top six. We're losing our record. We're losing the title because we ain't done the business elsewhere, whether it's because of squad deficiencies, whether it's execution. So yeah, man, like, next season is a huge season, as we're fully aware. We're expecting loads, and rightfully so, because time to deliver now, man. Like, there's no more waiting from my perspective.
Yeah, man. Jay, I wanted to come to you, right? Because I want you and Shabs to answer this this question, right? So it's like, this season is over for us. We've got we got Southampton on the last day away from home. I don't expect any sort of Ramsdale heroics there. I would expect us to, sort of pick up the 3 points. But coming into next season away from transfers, what I say, give me like 3 things you would like to see from Arsenal next year, right? And Shabs, you can think about this as well. I want the same question from you.
I kind of want to see like Arteta take his pragmatic hand off the sit. That I just want us to play free flowing football again. I think I'm tired of us like constantly like going into games where it's like we're always worried about how the other team can hurt us first before we are worried about how we can hurt them. Because you look at games and it's like, even with our setup, it's like, cool, we're going to move the ball from this side to this side, we're going to try and break through here and there, but the moment we lose the ball, it's 11 man running back and then it's back into your block. And I think you can't prepare for this set for every game the same way. And it's like, I see that every single game is like, the moment we're off the ball, it is the same 4-4-2 mid block where you're going to have Erdegaard and whoever's playing up front pressing or just shadowing and chasing for the ball. Like, and I think that's been an issue for us this season against PSG and against Newcastle a lot, where the personnel you have aren't going to replicate the same thing. So Trossard up front isn't going to replicate what Havertz up front is going to do when pressing, because Havertz is going to chase everything with more energy, with more intensity. So you setting up with the same game plan, with the same person, with different personnel every single time isn't going to work. I think he needs to play to his personnel more often. So it's like, for some games, like for example, we know teams have fullbacks who want to fly forward and cover a lot of defensive ground, right? Instead of having your winger come back into your own block, why not leave your winger higher up the pitch so that you can kind of test that resolve and be like, oh, okay, cool. You know what? If your fullback's going to constantly fly forward against our fullbacks, do I trust my fullback defensively? Yes, I trust Timber defensively. Yes, I might trust Skelly defensively. Can I leave my wingers in a position where it's like, if we break now, they have to think about it? I feel like it's too often he's thinking about how can we not be hurt defensively rather than how can we hurt teams attackingly. And I think it hurts players like Saka and Martinelli because you don't get to see the best of their ability when for 90 minutes they're playing as wing-backs essentially. So I think for me, I just think take your foot off the pragmatic wheel or whatever and just like kind of let players be a bit more free-flowing. You've got a spine essentially where you've got Gabriel, Saliba and Rice, who are 3 phenomenal athletes who will cover huge amounts of ground. You've got fullbacks who are elite at getting up and down the pitch in Skelly and Timber. So I feel like rather than having your wingers drop back into positions where they're defending for 60% of games, let them be free sometimes. Just allow them to like take that defensive work off their backs and just let them stay up higher at the pitch. And then when we win the ball in situations where it's easier for us to counter, because you look at Liverpool this season, right? Salah's output increased because he was having to do less defensive work. Even players who were playing on the left, if it was Gakpo, Diaz, or whoever, their output increased because they weren't having to do as much defensive work. I think he needs to find the balance of where we can be a solid defensive team out of position, but also be threatening when we don't have the ball. Because I look at a lot of teams who win, and a lot of the time it's like, yes, they are good defensively when they don't have the ball, but they're also a threat when they don't have the ball, because teams are constantly thinking, right, they're going to be able to get us here because they've got 2 or 3 players who, when they don't have the ball, is going to stay in areas where if they get that ball now, you're thinking about, right, they're going to hurt us here. They're going to hurt us here. I don't see that with Arsenal. I constantly see, Arsenal out of position. Okay, cool. If they win the ball, we're going to be able to get maybe 5 or 6 players back and stop their counter attack. By the time those 5 or 6 players are back, we know that another 2 will join, another 3 will join, and then we're in our shape, we're in our low block, we're in our mid block again, and Arsenal can't break us down. So I think he needs to take the chains off and just let these men ball. Like, I think that's the biggest issue, because 22-23, you saw us, we were a good team out of position, but we were also threatening on transitions. You saw it many times. And yeah, man, I think that he needs to let go of that City game from 22-23. He needs to let go of it, because it's still like, you can see that he's still got that fear from that game where we just got bullied in every single possible way in terms of physically and just football, in general football as well. So I feel like he needs to allow that time to pass and just maybe combine the 22-23 style with parts of the 23-24, where we were physically strong, defensively resolute, and just kind of have those two styles working together, because I think that's a formula for winning football.
Hey, man said take your foot off the wheel.
Hey, bro,
You know
listen.
when you're a kid, yeah, and you're riding your BMX, yeah, and it's got no brakes.
Yeah, bro, listen. Listen, the lyrics weren't flowing there, bro. I was trying to find the words there.
I don't know how Jay drives his car, man.
Yeah, bro, you burn the rubber off your soles, boy. You get new stuff every week. Your mum's got a living.
That's how we drive in the Badon, man.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You know the ones where my man he's got the pure water in one hand, the chin in the other hand, foot on the wheel.
I thought you were gonna let that one slide. I can't lie.
Man. That was litigation is up over here. But yeah, I agree.
Funny.
I agree with a lot of what's been said as well. I think for me, three things: verticality and central progression. I need to see more of that. I think that's part of the variation that we see. I think if we do sign Zubimendi, I think he helps with that to an extent. But also the Zubimendi signing will be interesting because I see real possibilities of him and Rice playing a double pivot in a lot of instances, and I think that probably allows Ødegaard to play as more of a 10 and play in more central zones as well. So I think that will be interesting. But that's something that I'd definitely like to see at times, if not all the time, at times. Unpredictability and speed in attack. That's what I want to see. I want to see killers. Yeah, like Saka's been carrying this club on his back for 5 years. It's 6 seasons now. I need support for him. Yeah, I need devastation on that left wing as well, because part of us being very predictable is our right-hand side bias, and everything has to go all the time down that right-hand side, and we just need to be more threatening from other parts. So central progression being a part of that, but down the left wing, we need better quality on that left wing, and there's no way that we can get into even 2-3 weeks into the summer without having strong links, if not a confirmed signing on a devastating left winger. We need big business in that position on the pitch. We absolutely need it. But yeah, I need unpredictability. I need someone who's just, gonna shift feet quickly and just take players out, just delete players. We've spoken about different profiles time and again, so don't ask me who, but you lot know the names I like by now. Come on, bro. Like I'm on here a couple of times a month. We've had these conversations time and again. You know the names I like. You know the players that are out there that fit and possess the requisite attributes. So we don't need to do this. But I need speed in attack as well. And speed in attack is part of new players that we bring in. But speed in attack is also committing players to the attack and to the overlap, and again releasing Timber at times and letting Timber join in the attack sometimes, more so being quicker on the break, which I also think Zubimendi helps with. You like Zubimendi or you don't like him. What I do like about him is that he's not afraid to go direct, and he operates and plays it forward very quickly, off of 1 touch or 2 touch, and his passes into wide areas, I think I see them as an asset. I actually see his speed of thought and his speed of operation in that regard being something that would be really helpful for a Martinelli. I just am tired of seeing Martinelli there, and I want someone else. It's a shame that we probably won't see it. We won't see it as much in the starting lineup, if anything. But yeah, we need that. We need other players being able to join in the attack as well, so that we're just less predictable. And then I need slightly less control, not too much. Like, the control is important, and the control is an important aspect and component of our game model. But I need slightly less control, man. I need more freedom. Like at home, against teams that we're just gonna smoke. I don't need all of this bullshit. I don't need it. Just go out there and smoke guys, and have faith and have confidence that the quality that you have is more than enough. These players know your system. They understand your system. Yeah, we don't have to be so risk averse. And this season, we've been risk averse and conceded more goals than we did last season. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, if it's about control and not conceding that, it actually didn't work for us this season, if we're looking at it in that way. So, but we also didn't score as many goals. We didn't gain as many points. So it's a calculated risk. And this season for me has not paid off. So I need to see the opposite of that next season. Absolutely. And that's both in terms of how we play, but that's also from the coach in terms of how he changes the game, you know, because sometimes the game's not going for us and we can all see the game's not going for us, but he leaves it too late to make a change. He's leaving attacking players on the bench. You know what I mean? He's bringing Ethan on with chicken change minutes when we've seen Ethan change games for us so many times this season. You know what I mean? So it's like lessons haven't really soaked in. So it's very annoying, man. Very frustrating. So these are three things that I need to see a difference next season. Like absolutely. Like I can't.
Yeah.
By the way, I was trying to say foot off the gas, not foot off the wheel. So yeah, just to clear that up.
I struck a nerve. Man waited for me to finish to come back in and say,
I was even gonna grab you for the way you said I don't need this anymore. You know when you're getting in trouble in school, it's bare phone calls home. I don't need this nonsense. Yeah, bringing these people to my house. I don't need it.
we got
I
the
know what
pod
you
title.
mean, player. Hey, relax.
We got the pod title locked. We got the pod title locked already. Yeah, we got the pod title locked already. So Khalil, I want to ask you the same question, and I'll give you guys my three things as well, man. And listeners, I'll put this question on the TL because I'm actually interested to see what people have to say in reviewing this season. So go for it, Khalil.
First things first, what I want to see next season, I want to see Islington Council tweet out definitive plans for a parade going around North London. The place it's going to start, the places it's going to reach. I need to know if it's going XYZ direction. I need to know there's going to be a platform outside the stadium. I need to know what day it's going to be on so I can plan accordingly. That's number one. I'm not trying to sit here next season talking about coulda, woulda, shoulda. I need to see success. And what I mean by success is I need a league title. I need a Champions League. The only way I can even begin to consider not lifting one of those is if we end up with 90 points. And even then, it's looking very shaky because I'm tired. I'm tired, especially when I feel as if it's reasons that were in our control as to why we didn't win. Because all now, with injuries, there's a reason why we survived, let's say, you know, the defensive injuries we had this season. There's a reason why we did not succeed as soon as Saka, Odegaard, you know, Havertz went down, because there's been a disproportionate amount of resources applied at one end of the pitch, and it's showing, which leads me on to point number two. This transfer window, yeah, I need to see certified quality in the final third come through the door. And I need it to come through the door prior to the Community Shield. I don't want to see none of this like September 1st scrambling around for whatever's left over. We have waited way too long to get what we need in that regard. Andrea Berta, he's feeding the streets. He's putting out stories. He's feeling out any agents out there, seeing what force they got. I like it. I like the energy, because we need to be decisive and definitive in the market. We cannot be stood. What do you call it? We can't be stood around in September, you know, meat in hand, wondering what the hell's happened to the party. Like, we need to be securing our top targets. So that's number two. Number three, now that we've arrived at next season with our goals in mind and our players recruited, it's already been referenced by a few of you. I do want to see a slight readjustment in sort of how we control games in terms of allowing for a little more risk. I do remember when we played Crystal Palace away, when Gabriel Jesus was pretending to, you know, make a comeback and perform for us down the business half the season before he had his injury. That game sticks out for me because we scored 5. Obviously, we conceded 2. But what stood out for me in that game is it was probably the most end-to-end game I remember from our team this season. and we scored 5, and we probably should have scored more. And there was like a smudge of me thinking, is this something that we can actually take forward like into games? Obviously, at that point, that was the game that Saka went down. So, you know, big change. But you get what I'm saying? Like, we had, you know, Jesus, Saka, I think Martinelli, obviously Miles Lewis-Skelly just came to the team. We had Rice, right? So a lot of the guys that were in there, you know, are some of our, like, you know, definitive game changers or game breakers, however you want to call them. And I'm just thinking, we beat up a decent team, obviously decent mid-table team, but we beat them up and could have scored more. I would much rather feel like come away from games feeling that, you know, we created bare, but couldn't connect, as opposed to what, you know, has been said already, which is the games when you're even wondering, are we going to get 3 clear-cut chances? Like, I think we should be past that sort of angst going into games where we're wondering, are we going to be able to create, you know, numerous great open play opportunities, by the way, because I know man are trying to tell me still that set piece, set piece creation is just as fine as open play creation. No, show me all the spreadsheets you want. I don't care. If we're not creating sustainably from open play, we are not going to achieve our goals for next season. So those are the 3 things that I want. I want definitive parade plans that will be executed. 2, I want there to be definitive, decisive moves in transfer window for our final third. I want to see multiple final third recruits. Bun the keeper, if it means so. You know, bun the left back, centre back, whoever it is that you may want to bring in. If it means I get minimum 2 guys in that position, all for it. And then number 3, definitely want to see slightly more, what's the phrase, caution to the wind being given in the way we play, because we are a very good team. We have some of the best defensive players in the world. Some of it, yes, is amplified by the fact that we're such a tightly wound team. We press obviously very well, and we're able to obviously sit in defensive blocks, which again helps protect our defenders. I get that, but with how good they are with their athletic profiles and their ability to read the game, there is license for us to take slightly more risk and put the defense and put opposition defenses under more pressure with our own attackers, which I'm hoping are going to be insert Rodrigo, insert whoever it is. I think that is what's going to take us from being a good team to a team that wins. And if not, then, you know, maybe I end it all, man. Maybe I just find, you know, NBA full time and just follow that, because I don't know what else we can do at that point.
Yeah. I think that you've all made some great points, right? And I'll just, before we go into listeners' questions, I'll just jump in with my 3, right? Because for me, going to the stadium this year, this has been the 1 year. So basically, growing up, we never really went to the ground. Yeah, I don't know them stories of, oh yeah, my dad took me to Arsenal Highbury when I was 7 years old. Like, he's never been on that. Yeah, but so that's always been like one of my sick things. Yeah, that when I'm earning, I'm gonna jump on a season ticket thing. I want to go to the games because I've loved going to the ground. Yeah, this has been probably one of the worst seasons I've had as a match going fan. Going to the ground, yeah, like, it has not been enjoyable, right? The opening day game, or the first home game of the season, I think Wolves at home, you sort of stomach it. Saka scores a great goal, you know. I think Havertz bagged as well that match, and you're like, you know what, that performance weren't the greatest, but we're coming into it. These man, international tournament, we didn't really have much of a pre-season like we did the season before. Maybe I confirm it. You know, but basically every single home match was like that, right? Even the Man City match 5-1, yeah, was until Partey scored his goal, I was livid watching that match. I was furious, because I'm like,
and then the chances we missed first half.
Chances we missed, but the way we were playing, yeah, it was like this City team had been conceding goals on a transition, on a Mazza, all the way up until that point. They're in one of the worst form that we've seen them for years, and yet we're showing them all of this respect, not really going for the jugular. And I felt that was the case throughout this whole season. I think of very, very few matches I've gone to the Emirates this year where I thoroughly enjoyed it and come away being like, wow, that's worth it. You know, bearing in mind, I come home and my wife is now sticking me on chores because she's given me 3 hours away from the baby. Yeah, so
Hold that.
thank you, Shab. So I need it to be worth it, bro. Do you get what I'm saying? So number one for me, I need to see some excitement at home, and I need to see less bozenness. Yeah, because I felt that we just not been a serious team at home for like 2 or 3 seasons, personally. So
let me add in something there. There is a point to be made about fan sentiment becoming more disgruntled as the quality of play declines. Because I think fans are willing to stomach the defensive side, the cautious side, if it results in us actually succeeding in our goals. But if we're not succeeding and I've still got to go every weekend, like what am I turning up for? Like where's the enjoyment? Like you're absolutely right. Part of the reason why Wenger stayed for as long as he did, even past the sell-by date, is because generally speaking, you can still come to the Emirates and enjoy ball. Like even in that last disastrous season, we had the second best home record, was it? We were like 15 games, we scored a bunch of goals. So like you can still somewhat guarantee that you're coming and watching some good play. Of course, you know, the rest of it was terrible, but you get the point. If I'm not tuning in and watching entertainment, then what am I actually tuning in for? And especially if I'm not getting a trophy at the end of it.
I hear you, man. I hear you. So for me, I need more exciting matches, especially at home. You know, I've not enjoyed this season. Number two, I would like Arteta to go back to having a bit more variation in some of the tactical things that he does when we're chasing a game. I think one of the things that I've really kind of irritated me this season is when we've not been good at chasing, right, number one, right, for the past 2 years. But I think back to when we actually were sort of, 22, 23. I actually think we were a more balanced team, better team overall last season. But I think in this aspect, when it was 22, 23, you almost felt that it was inevitable that we were going to score. There's so many games, right, where we would get pegged back after taking a lead, and we would come back because it would feel like relentless pressure. The keeper is making saves. There's last-ditch tackles coming from the centre-backs, this, that, and the other. And I feel like that's vanished, completely when we're chasing. So like 22, 23, you've got the Aston Villa game. You've got the Man United game at home. You've got the Bournemouth game at home. You've got the Liverpool game. You've got the game against Chelsea where we ended up scoring from a set piece, but we were blamming them at 0-0, right? And there's a whole list of games you can go through where we might get pegged back and we're going to score. We're going to come back. And in that, I felt like Arteta used to throw way more caution to the wind a little bit. There'll be a change of formation. We'll go 3 at the back. We'll put players at wing back. We'll get a second striker on to try and get more bodies in the box. And I think that's kind of disappeared a little bit. Even when you've had the likes of Kieran Tierney back in the squad now, he's kind of just gone, right, I'm going to put Tierney left wing. There's not been this whole let me chuck an extra striker on. There's not been this whole, let me get some extra attackers on. It's a lot of like for like substitutions, or not really making substitutions even in some games. Like we're chasing a game, you're keeping it the same players until 80 minutes. I feel like he was a bit more proactive in that season, a bit more coming back to risk, not as risk averse, right? In that season, and I need to see a bit of that come back. And number three, final thing is I need, and this is not necessarily Arsenal related on the pitch, but off the pitch, I need fans to let go of this. Oh, it's only the League Cup. Oh, it's only the FA Cup. Oh, it's only the Europa League kind of thing, right? Like for me, I just see it as winning begets winning, begets winning, begets winning, right? Like the 2 teams who have won the league in the last 4 or 5 years in City and Liverpool have attacked every competition, right? Have attacked every competition. And the reason they've been able to do that, the managers have, I think Pep has obviously been the best at it this season aside, but he's still got to a cup final. in rotating the team, getting his team to a good place at Christmas, so that when it comes to crunch time in a lot of these competitions, his players are in the best shape. He knows his best plan, and they just lock in and go into win now mode, right? You've seen this with Liverpool as well, with Klopp, that they have been, I don't know how many League Cup finals they've gotten to in recent years. They've won the FA Cup, they've won the League Cup, I think twice. They got to the final of the Europa League in Klopp's first season. They got to the Champions League final in Klopp's second season. I need us to really attack some of these competitions and take them a bit more seriously. I think, frankly, it's a joke that we haven't been past the fourth round in the FA Cup since the time we won it under Arteta. That's just not acceptable for a club of our size. Those are records that Crystal Palace have. But fans are just so easy to brush it off like, oh, we've won the FA Cup before. Yeah, okay, we can win it again. We can win it again. Oh, I don't care about the League Cup. Why not? Why not? There's literally 4 competitions at the start of the season. Yeah.
Why is our season better off because we lost to United in the 3rd round? Like, why is that good?
It's because we get to go to Dubai. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, we got
the whole bigger fish to fry thing is stupid as well, because like we are not serial winners like that to be saying bigger fish to fry. Like,
I absolutely hate it. So I need the attitude to change a little bit from fans, because we haven't won the League Cup in my lifetime. Right? We actually haven't. You know, I think 1991 was the last time we won the League Cup. Yeah, like why are fans turning their nose up at that? Do you get what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense to me. Personally, I'm not saying they need to be our utmost priority. Right, but what I need the manager to be able to do is find a way to functionally rotate this team. Right, I'm not trying to hear it in season 7 that you do not have a team strong enough to compete in all 4 competitions. I'm not hearing it at all. I'm sorry, I'm not. Right, so those are the things I'm trying to hear, and then obviously, added bonus, I need me some more technical quality in attack. I just need it, right? But that's transfer related. So we've done an hour now. Let me just go to listeners' questions, and then we'll wrap up for today, right? So obviously there's a few people trolling. I'm not going to read them ones out, but Johnny F, he says, with the way Rice can cross a ball, do you think we should try him at right centre mid to give Saka another overlapping option? Why do you think we haven't been linked with Osman as someone who's available and fits a win now window? So there's 2 questions there. You're off mute, so I'll go to you on question 1, and then Jay, you can jump in on the second
one. We're not linked with Osman because Osman is, how can I phrase this in a delicate way? Osman is a character. He is very passionate and forthright about his views, which he sometimes goes onto Instagram Live and spews out. Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, I would very happily take Victor Osman at Arsenal. I've said this numerous times over. I know German Dan is throwing up at home listening to this, but I don't care. I would sacrifice a good, 50, 60, 70 million for a penalty box demon, and yeah, we all for it. Why are we not linked with him? I assume it's going to be the concerns about his technical level, which to me I think can be mitigated. Again, striker is the one position in the team where I can forego your technical difficulties as long as you can back. This is why I was a big fan of Oba, because he would clap goals with regularity, something we have not had in a very long time. So yeah, on a more serious level, there's always talk about his wages and his wage demands. But again, when I see some of the wages that are being handed out to players of his caliber in this particular league, he's well within his rights to be asking, 300 grand, whatever it is, because that's just the going rate. And maybe we don't want to pay that. But me, I would happily take Victor Osimhen. Maybe there is anti-African bias in there. I've got to put my Pan-African thinking on. But yeah, it's an interesting one only because a few seasons ago, we did have the agent at the training ground And, there were actual solid links to him. But yeah, gone off the boil. Between his perceived personality, obviously he fell out at Napoli, which wasn't good, and his perceived wage demands, which I've already said aren't the biggest issue for me, and, his technical level. But again, in certain circumstances, when you've got secure technical players elsewhere, I confirm the striker being a bit wonky as long as you're bagging 25 plus, which I think you can.
I think, Jay, you can answer the first question since Khalil just wanted to answer the Osman question. Even though I didn't direct him to that one. It's cool. It's cool. He needed to defend his countrymen.
I went off script.
Yeah, he needs to defend his countrymen, so that's calm. But I think it's more the wages thing, more than anything, because I know, if you took, I don't think the falling out of the managers thing is that deep. Like Arteta has been in changing rooms. He's known that players and managers don't always get on. I think Trossard fell out with De Zerbi as well, like right before we signed him. So I do think it's the wages. I think people are overblowing the whole, he's a personality, he's this, he's that kind of thing. More than anything, I think if it's to believe Osman's asking for like some 400 to 450k in wages, that'd be the biggest wage Arsenal have ever paid ever. I think Ozil was on 375, Aubameyang was on 350, and yeah, I just can't see us signing anyone on a 450k wage. So that's the main thing. But yeah, Jay, question number one on Rice and using him as right centre mid, because I think actually Tuchel done that for England, and it did look half decent.
I was actually thinking about this the other day when the goal happened with Rice coming across and just finishing it from that side. I think it's something to consider, but I think where you look at Saka's final ball quality and it's always at the back post, I think Rice on the other side is someone who can make that late run into the box or that back post run if it's on sometimes, and he'll always be a target for that back post cross from Saka, which I think is something that would work quite well. I think even against Newcastle away, you saw Saka stuck it up to the back post, and Rice just about missed. I don't think it's a question of Rice being the right centre mid. I think the person who's playing right centre mid needs to be able to match Saka's technical level. I think you need to be able to match his technical level where you can kind of link in like 1-2s, where you can help Saka get closer to goals sometimes, where you can take the wide spaces and help him get into areas where he can score more goals. I think Ødegaard tries to do it, but the level he's been doing it at this season obviously hasn't been the best. I still think Ødegaard on that right-hand side next to Saka is the solution at the moment. I just think off a poor season, we're all kind of like throwing these different ideas and solutions out there. Off of one poor season where you look at the last two, Ødegaard was fantastic from that role. So I think it's not, I wouldn't say it is broken. I think it's just been a poor season. Obviously, he's had that little niggle, the ankle situation that's probably played on the whole season, which is probably why his performances have been like this. Plus, that guy looks like I don't know, man. He looks like he could get blown over by a gust of wind at the moment. So yeah, that needs to be sorted out as well. But also, yeah, I don't think it's a question of Rice coming to the right-hand side. I think it's just Ødegaard needs to get back to his best kind of thing. And I feel like we're looking at this season and trying to chop and change too much because Ødegaard's been off the room, off the flow. So yeah, I don't think it's a case of Rice right centre mid.
Do you know what it is? I think for me personally, I'm not averse to it, but it doesn't have to be permanent. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I think it can happen some games where you mix it up.
It could be situational as well, right? Even within a game, let Ødegaard just go cook on the left-hand side a little bit more. Let Rice go over to the right-hand side. Because I think one of the things that you notice in Liverpool play is whoever is playing that right centre mid, they do loads of underlaps when Salah's on the ball to free him up, maybe inside, you know. And I feel like that's a trick we're missing a little bit here, where, you know, Saka, we know how dangerous he is on that left foot. We know he gets double, triple teamed. Do we have enough movement around him to try and move people away? I'm not sure that we do, personally. And that sort of reverse pass is something that Saka's really good at. And you see Salah has almost perfected that pass, right? Where he gets it with, you know, almost a perfect backspin. And we know what Rice's delivery is like on his strong foot, you know, across the goal. So, you know, I do think that is, you know, maybe an unexplored avenue. And also on that, I think some of the angles might suit Odegaard a little bit. Like if you look at some of the most dangerous passes this guy has played in an Arsenal shirt, a lot of them come from that side of the pitch as well. So, you know, if things are not cooking on the right, moving Odegaard to the left can have its benefits as well, not just with the Rice thing. So, you know, it is something that I'm not sure why we haven't explored as much, especially when you see Rice finishing like that from that side, you know. So yeah, I think those are some really good questions from Johnny F. So thank you for that. So Bums 83315. That is
That's a crazy act. That's a crazy act.
He says, would Spurs have had a better season? Lol, joking. When do you think the club should stop chasing players and move on if no traction? Example, how long should we drag this Rodrigo thing? Don't want a summer chase or to end up with Sterling on loan at midnight deadline day. Shabs, I'll let you in on this one.
I think this one is dependent because a player like Rodrigo, that's a big. We were talking about this the other day, so I can't remember if we were actually on pod or we were just conversing it in the chat. But for me, I want all the business done early. But the exceptions that I will provide is if you land a big player late in the window, and by dragging it late, that is the factor that enables you to land that big player. Ultimately, it's about the quality of the player and the quality of the player available. But this is where you have to be shrewd. And the window's fluid as well. These markets are fluid as well. I think people also need to, we do need to be fair. We do need to be a bit measured in terms of our expectations, because sometimes it is a balancing game or a game of cat and mouse, or, you know, a game of poker, whichever analogy you want to use. Is about showing your hand, using leverage that you have. It's about real negotiation and whatnot. But for me, it's about being able to do due diligence. You know, we talk about scouting. Scouting is not a factor here. There are scouts and scouting mechanisms, and we know players. You know, we from our homes know players. Scouting is not the issue, it's recruitment. And that recruitment goes from the point of saying, yeah, actually, I want to move on this player. And it's about being shrewd, doing your due diligence, doing your negotiations in the background, getting an understanding of what a player that you are seriously interested in might want, doing your background work as well. So the things that we all know, but the things that we don't know, like how, you know, how this person's conduct is, what their behavior is like, what their family situation is, how they've adapted, are they homesick, all of that stuff is important and relevant. And then it becomes a bit of a balancing act. And it's like, yeah, okay, should we act now or should we wait? And that's how you hear about teams all the time losing out on players. We lost out because actually, in order to get this deal done, we had to have weighted the market a little bit. And we weren't prepared to do that because we just wanted to finalize our business. And so we moved on someone else, or that player, you know, was off the board because a target that the player's existing club tried to land couldn't come, and, you know, now they've renegotiated terms. So for me, it's a balancing act, man. The Sterling one is I get why the Sterling example was provided. I think that's a really bad example. But Arsenal need to be really, in terms of recruitment, you have your players lined up. Like you have your, if you decide Gyökeres is your plan A, and then Šeško's your plan B maybe, and then whoever might be your plan C, you've got to know and be sounding out Gyökeres from now, really, before the season ends. And the moment it's no longer viable, you need to be able to pivot very quickly to your plan B, because this is how we end up not signing players as well, and then we decide to keep our powder dry, and that is the biggest load of bullshit. So yeah, but I just want to say I don't think it's as straightforward as that, man. So sorry if that's not a helpful answer, but like that's these are the wheelings and dealings of real football.
I think part of it is also, just quickly, I think part of it is also whoever the person who is leading negotiations, or attributing it to be Berta. I think part of what makes their job or what makes them good at their job is being able to suss out what's an actual real opportunity and what's just sort of, a wild goose chase. So you're hoping that with the right connects and the right background, research, that you're able to suss out what's a genuine opportunity and what's a goose chase as well. So yeah, big summer ahead for the recruitment team.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I mean when I say doing your due diligence. That for me is a part of that, being able to suss out who's who and what's what. And yeah, man, so clubs lose out all the time because they decided to wait or act on someone else. So where actually sometimes for the agents, for the players, it's in their best interest for things to be dragged out. Some players are using paper talk and interest to drive and generate a bigger contract at their existing club. Some players genuinely want out, but the club's trying to convince them to stay. Some players don't know what they want to do because there's changing landscape with managers throughout the summer as well, so they don't know what's going to happen. Am I in your manager's plans? Some players don't want to move until after they've had a preseason, so they've got a sense of what's going on. Am I featuring in the manager's plans or whatnot? And when you factor in summer windows where there's tournaments and stuff like that, it's crazy, in terms of the time frames in which these things actually happen. You're asking a player who's very comfortable living in Spain in the warm weather on a big wage at a big club to, with a family or young family, to say, yeah, I want to come and I want you to leave the country that and come and live in England and play for this team and blah 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 blah. And it's a big ask. These players have to make these decisions sometimes in really short spaces of time. And yeah, man, it's not easy.
Another thing as well for me is if I'm seeing situations like Watkins in January and Calafiori last summer, it just tells me that people signing off on these transfers are just not serious human beings, because I don't understand how you can look at a situation like Watkins and say you want to keep the powder dry for the summer, and then you essentially sacrifice the season and not make a transfer like that, or you wait for a big name club like Real Madrid to now show interest before you want to go and push through on a deal completely. Like, I can't be seeing one in, one out nonsense again. I can't be seeing we're going to try and cheapskate our way out of a deal and whatnot. Like, when it comes to players when it comes to game changers, you got to pay the fee, man. I think it's simple as that.
Big facts.
Yeah, I think that's some really good responses there. So original Jim Bob has asked, I'm hearing that we're looking to renew both Partey and Trossard and that we might have a quieter summer than we expected. Are you concerned by some of these noises coming out of certain parts of the media? I don't mind doing this one because for me, I need to see what happens, right? I need to see what happens. I will always, I think, judge the window at the end of it, because you never know what is around the corner, is what I would say. What I will tell you is I do not want us to renew either of those players. And I personally would like to see us just move on, just stop being so scared to move on from certain guys. I think that's what has meant that we find ourselves in these positions, because we're not able to kind of just cut ties when we should. I think if you look at Smith Rowe, you look at Nketiah, you look at even guys like Losungu, Nuno Tavares, Fabio Vieira, some of the names, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Hector Bellerin, some of these guys where it's like, I personally think you never regret moving on from a player. And if you recruit appropriately, yeah, teams lose big players all the time. They actually do. Arsenal have lost big players in the past. But when you lose a Mark Overmars, when you lose a Nicolas Anelka at 21 or however old he was, but you go and get a Robert Pires and you go and get Thierry Henry and Davor Suker or whatever in the same window, that season, you're not then talking about, we should have never sold Overmars. We should have never sold Anelka, because the guys you brought in are wavy, right? If you let go of a player and replace them with someone good, you're never talking about, oh, we should have never lost this guy. It's when you sell a Xhaka and you bring in a Kai Havertz and a Mikel Merino, and people are like, oh, look at what we had with Xhaka. Even though when Xhaka was here, everyone was saying this is the most upgradable position in our 11. You get what I'm saying? So man, they need to do this thing where it's like, by man I mean Arsenal. They need to do this thing. It's like, you can lose these guys, but just make sure your recruitment is on point. I'm sorry, Trossard came in as a stopgap, right? People are like, look, this is an inexpensive January signing. He can come, provide some quality until we can get our real shooter in. But now we're 3 seasons later, and people are saying we need to renew Trossard. And I'm like, guys, like, why are we changing the scope of what these guys were brought here to do? Because you're just not recruiting the proper guy. You get what I'm saying? So if you tell me we're going to let Trossard go, you're going to push the boat out and replace him with Nbuemo to be your false 9/wing player, you go and let Raheem Sterling go, and you go get Rodrigo in, right? And those now are your 2 wing options, as well as Martinelli and Saka. Big man thing. No one's going to care that Trossard left. Do you get what I'm saying? Right? No one's going to care that we don't have Raheem Sterling. You get what I'm saying? So I say that all of that to say, like, I need the club to do the necessary business, right? And if you're talking about renewing these guys to save money elsewhere on other transfers, you need to bring me a mad thing where I can justify keeping Trossard, or justify keeping Thomas Partey, which I think is frankly a joke, where you go and land the Isak. Because otherwise, if you're telling me that, we're renewing Partey to save money so you can go buy Watkins that was available in January, someone's head needs to be conked, someone's ear needs to be twisted, because this is just not good enough, So I just need the club to be serious. And if those 2 guys are here by the end of summer, I'm going to need to see Isak here as well. I'm sorry. Because otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
The only thing I'll add on the contract renewal bits is any player that is given a contract renewal is a player that Arteta wants to keep. I'm saying this very specifically because there's been quite a few tweets on the timeline saying that they're questioning Berto already because of how he's handling things. If Thomas Partey gets an extension, I promise you it's because Arteta wants to give him an extension. Yep. There's no scenario in which Arteta says, I don't want Partey at the club, and Berto turns around and gives him a new contract. It does not work like that. Berto and Arteta are at the same level of power as has been clearly articulated. Berto is not Arteta's boss. Arteta reports directly to Tim Lewis, whoever his name is. So, again, any contract renewals, you could squarely lay them at the feet of Arteta. Recruitment recruiting outside the club, that's a separate issue. But yeah, so just be aware if you're complaining about, why is Trossard here next season or why Partey's here next season, that can definitely be attributed to the manager. So yeah, just wanted to add that in.
I just want to add, and Cougs has said it as well, but yeah, for me, if keeping Partey is an enabler for going out and doing big business or getting game changers in, for me, it's the lesser evil. So I can stomach it. You know what I mean? Partey for me, ultimately, is a big wage to commit to. But if we're talking about an extension only for further 12 months or whatever, it's minor. And I think we have to be realistic as well, because we know Jorginho's going. Partey has been, by and large, the starting 6 for us this season. We know Rice has played there or been used there at times in big games and whatnot, but more often than not, Partey's played there this season. So if Partey does go, Zubimendi is anticipated to arrive, but he that may not happen. It's not confirmed. It's likely to happen or whatnot. But let's assume Zubimendi does come in. You've got Zubi starting 6. You've got Rice, who looks locked in as starting 8. If you get rid of Partey, you have to rely on being able to use Rice there sometimes, and then maybe needing another LCM right now, or you have to rely on something different. Zubi being the sole 6, and you have to rely on someone else being an understudy or backup or cover for Zubimendi. So for me, I'm not mad at the idea. I'm absolutely not mad at the idea of it, but it has to be worthwhile in terms of the quality that's brought in. Like, you can't renew Partey and then not bring in a game changer. For me, it's just that is not going to make any sense. So I say with these things, with these examples, Trossard is very similar. Although I think there's a case for selling Trossard now. To be honest with you, I think there's a very good case for selling Trossard now, because I don't think you can extract any more value from Trossard. If you renew him, you erode in value. So it's exactly leaning on the point that Cougs made earlier. But again, if we keep Trossard, but it means we can bring in a Rodrigo and an Isak and an understudy or Saka as well, and do business in other parts of the pitch, no one's going to care about that.
I think with Trossard, it's more about protecting his value, because I think you give him a renewal, it means it's easier to sell him. Whereas you try and sell him now with 12 months left, I don't think you can maximize as much money you would want. So I think Trossard, it's
don't buy this protecting their value stuff, man.
I don't want him to be signed at all. By the way, I want that guy gone. Like, Trossard,
I hear you, and so
Trossard is someone.
If you say you protect his value, he's a year older next year. You know what I mean? So again, it becomes less attractive to the top markets. So I hear it, but I don't think it's genuine for that to be an excuse from the club. Like I don't.
I'm definitely not buying that excuse at all, because for me, both of them have to go. And even speaking on Partey, I've just seen this now that apparently he's closer than ever to renewing his contract with Arsenal, a 1+1 deal. Apparently, don't know how reliable that source is, but yeah, it looks like he's definitely staying as it stands right now. But yeah, with both of them, I think I'd cut ties with both of them. Like Shabs said, yes, the Partey one slightly makes more sense, but I just think with all that's been happening on pitch, off pitch, just cut ties with the guy, man. Like, enough is enough.
Yeah. I hear you, man. The last couple of questions, we'll do them quickly. So, K Boogie, do you think Arteta will use the full extent of his squad when he gets his new guys, or will he run 13 players into the ground again? He's not been proactive with experimentation recently, unless it's forced by injury.
That's his problem, isn't it? I already said, next summer, I need to be basking in the glow of a Champions League or a Premier League title. How he chooses to get there is on him. You cannot be in the job and craft the squad to this level of your desire and still be running, a 12-man squads. It doesn't make sense. At that point, a change is definitely needed.
I think for me, that will just show zero sign of growth. It will show zero sign of growth, and it will just show that you actually don't trust a huge majority of your squad, because for 3 years you tried to run on this whole, I'm going to use the same 14 players every match day, whether it's going to be 3 games a week, 1 game a week, or whatever. You're going to rotate the same players, make the same substitutions. It just shows zero growth from me, and it means that you actually aren't learning as a manager. It means you're stuck in your old ways, and you're going to basically be stuck in your old ways until eventually you win. So for me, I think that's a big indicator of, like, you will have to cut ties with a manager.
Yeah, fair play, man. Fair play. So last question from Baba Ronald. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but I think this question is a slightly different angle. It says, the Zubimendi signing potentially reduces Odegaard's build-up responsibility. Do you see us using Rice at right centre mid before a bit more?
At right centre mid?
So basically swapping positions.
Odegaard benching, yeah. Odegaard being benched.
Odegaard being benched, or Odegaard being used left centre mid?
Well, I think Odegaard being benched, right? Because he's saying if you got Rice and Zubimendi as your other midfielders, or
no, I don't.
I understood it as like Odegaard swapping positions with Rice.
Yeah, that's how I heard it. I think we did touch on it earlier in the question, and we touched on it as well when I was talking about when we were talking about what we want to see next season, and the bits and pieces. Zubimendi definitely, one of his qualities and one of the descriptors of him is that he, as a lone six in possession, he is deemed as one of the best single pivots in world football. Whether you see that and whether that translates when you actually watch him play is one thing. And this is not me saying that. This is what the Daily News says. But he is very press resistant. He's very comfortable. He does help with build up. He is, he's accurate with his passing. He can penetrate. He can do so. I see, and I talk about this a lot. I talk about Ødegaard as a situational pivot, and Ødegaard having to drop deep all too often to help us build up. And I think he gets through. He has to get through too much work, because if he's got to lead the press, but then if he's also got to drop deep to receive in order to help us build out and play out, but if he's also been tasked with being our primary creator or our creator in chief as well, so a lot of different roles and responsibilities. Our technical leader, it's a lot of different things you expect from him on the pitch. So I think he does definitely need help. I think Zubimendi offers that help and that assistance for Ødegaard. I was talking about earlier when I said we might potentially see Ødegaard, whether formally named in terms of on paper position, or whether it's just is translated by the spaces he takes up on the pitch when he's actually playing. But I think better build-up enables us to see Ødegaard positioned higher up and positioned more centrally, where he can receive the ball in more dangerous positions. It still doesn't mean that he's comfortable to receive the ball in traffic with his back to goal in that zone, but it means that he can still be threatening, and he doesn't have to do as much legwork. So I see it, and I see a value to it. The Rice right-hand side stuff, we touched on it earlier. I personally don't want to over-index it too much. I think there are certain game situations where Rice on the right-hand side can be useful, and I think there are certain game states where I think Rice right-hand side, Rice and Ødegaard should switch positions in certain game states, in certain game instances. I think that should happen, but wholesale changes there in that regard, and having a fixed view on changing Rice's position, I'm not sure that changes the overall dynamic for us massively over the long term either, because teams will also just adapt to that and just say, all right, he's there. Let's find a way to stop that. So
I hear you. So guys, thanks for joining me. Jay, Shabs, Khalil. I've enjoyed that conversation, and listeners, I hope you've enjoyed locking in. The Y Scout is back, so I've settled the invoice, lads. Yeah.
You're telling the world our business.
I'm telling people. Yeah.
Creditors was chasing us.
Be prepared.
This guy's been putting on his best Andrea Berta impersonation, man. Bear negotiations back and forth with the money.
Making the calls.
That's why he came with a shirt on. He said, "I've been dealing with the finances."
Listen,
Lagos businessman for real.
Listen, he's been dealing with mafioso in Italy, in the trenches of.
I've been sourcing alternatives. I've been discussing installment payments. You know what I'm saying? So I've been really in my Berta bag. But we came through. We signed on the dotted line. That deal has gone through. So you guys make sure you're locked in on the Patreon, because we've got plenty of video content loading now. Rodrigo, that's my personal number one on my list right now for wide position. We're going to be looking at strikers. We're going to be looking at wingers. We're going to be looking at centre mids. If you don't know what Zubimendi is going to load for us, lock into the Patreon. Is coming out there, and there will be other content. Shab's been telling me some few ideas that he's got bubbling under there. German Dan's been doing the same. So if you are not locked into their Patreon, you're going to miss out on this content. Sign up from as little as £3 a month. And those are going to be coming out over the next few weeks. So as the TNATs of this world are trying to scam you, for for tidbits in here and there. That's not what you're going to get from TG. So make sure you look in there.
He told me we're signing a winger. I just don't know who the winger is. Jeez, that is some top tier sauce right
inside knowledge.
The ITKs. We're not going to be doing. It's not an ITK page. It's just pure football content. So you guys make sure you look in. Otherwise, Shabs, Khalil, Jay, thank you very much for joining me, listeners. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll catch you guys soon, man, after the Southampton match. So yeah, we'll keep
season
it.
review.
Ramsdale, don't be a hero, man. You know what to say.
That guy couldn't be a hero if he tried, but he's ass.
Peace.
Yo. When I spit bars in a rave, man, I go hard like Santan.